The Pleasure of Pain by Hogan. So, what was it I just took? The pharmacist leant forward on the white plastic chair. It's a derivative of MDMA. My mind snagged through the half-familiar name. Ecstasy. Ecstasy was good. Ecstasy I could cope with. Not that what he'd given me looked like ecstasy. Not that any of his pills ever did. A derivative, he corrected. I've been coming to the pharmacist on an ad hoc basis for what, about a year? Of course he wasn't a real pharmacist, since he didn't take payment even if you offered. Now, you went to see the pharmacist when you were short on the readies, or looking for something a bit different. That's what he had. Pills that were a bit different. I swayed my head in time to the music, some Euro trash thing, waiting for the familiar swell of euphoria. My shoulders slumped. It's not working! He leant forward, shone his little mag light in my eyes, and nodded. That was the other thing about the pharmacist. He was always taking your pulse, tapping your knee, or asking you to count 20 in twos. I blinked the red splotches away as he swiveled in his seat. I thought he was reaching for a pen to make another note on his clipboard, but no. He instead returned with a fork and held it in the air between us. Great, Ahmad, I'm starving. Bastard stabbed me on the back of the head. And then, all the stars in heaven united behind my eyes. And angels sang glorious hymns to my heart. And all was bliss and all was joy. Oh, I gasped, as the single greatest rush of my drug-strewn life ebbed too far rapidly away. A derivative, the pharmacist repeated, as the ringing in my ears faded to a hum. Activated by the endorphins, released by intense pain. He handed over the fork, and I looked at it, and then at the 4 red dots at the back of my hand, and then back at him. Well, go on, he encouraged, and I did, and the beauteous pleasure rolled once again down my shuddering body, and I sank deep into the loving arms of the stained sofa, only slowly to surface, blinking into the dazzling light of the bare bulb. Good reaction, the pharmacist said, getting all businesslike as I sat gulping air. Usual deal, 3. No, for you, 5 pills in return for a detailed report. It goes without saying, these are for your personal use only. And if anyone asks, you have no idea where they came from. And off you went, leaving me on another come down still clutching the fork. Who knows where, because we never met in the same squat twice. By the time I emerged into the afternoon sunlight, my hand looked like a pincushion. Beads of ruby red where the skin was broken. Dots of black where the damage lay beneath. But that didn't worry me. Nothing worried me, because everything was equally shit. It was all dross and dirt and death. Nothing mattered. Nothing but the memory of that explosion of ecstasy each time I plunged that fork into my hand, into my thigh, and into my foot over and over until the explosion stopped coming. Until my only reward was a dull sense of pain, itself a matter of little consequence, trivial and banal next to the loss of that express elevator to nirvana. But then, I did have 5 magical little pills nestling in a little baggie close to my arm. It was an effort not to drop one right there and then in the middle of the street. I'd never quite sunk that low. I like to be somewhere safe, somewhere sheltered, somewhere away from the busies. You can't just rock up at a mate's squat, pop a pill and refuse to share. It's not friendly. So there was only one place to go. I was off to Kat's. Kat wasn't a mate. Kat wasn't a user. Kat was a dominatrix. A mistress of pleasure in a world of pain. I'd sublet her room in my council flat a couple of years ago when she was just starting out, and provided a reassuring presence when the punters weren't as submissive as they should be. Not that I would have been much use in a ruckus, but my lanky 6'2" frame, close cropped hair and piercings meant no one called my bluff. She had gone up market since and me down, but I figured she still owed me. Kat peered up expectantly as she swung the door open, swathed in one of her silk kimonos. A brief look of disappointment flashed across her delicate features and suggested I shouldn't overstay my welcome. Mind if I crash for an hour? I asked, employing my most engaging smile. It's been known to make small kids soil themselves, but hey, it's the best I've got. She shrugged. A client cancelled. Thought they might have changed their mind. You've got to be gone by 5 though, okay? I nodded and was about to say something else when she yelped, "What the hell have you done to your aunt?" I raised it up, staring at the patchwork of blues and blacks across a background of angry red. "Ah, it's nothing," I muttered. "Doesn't it hurt?" she asked, gingerly reaching out, her fingers dwarfed by my swollen digits. I shook my head. "No, not really." And it didn't, even though it did look quite a fright. Well, before you knew it, Kat had wheedled the whole story out of me. And so there we were with a pill and a tumbler of scotch each. I'd never known Kat to take more than a toke on a joint, but this, she said, this was different. This was professional. This was research. She laid down the ground rules. She set out the tools of her trade on the coffee table, riding crops, paddles, crocodile clips. She confiscated the fork I was surprised to find I still had. Nothing to the face, or she shuddered, "The hand's okay." I nodded my ready agreement and popped the pill and washed it down. To tell you the truth, it all gets a bit hazy after that. At some point we got naked, I do remember that. I remember her hissing, "Bite me," and then harder, and then "Bite me harder, you ugly sod." I remember the end of the riding crop flying across the room, the manic laugh as she stood above me, panting, holding the broken handle. I think I remember taking another pill and then raiding her kitchen for sturdier implements. There's a fairly clear memory of watching a flaming blue liquid that was probably Drambuie dancing in my navel, filling my core, my very essence, with bottomless bliss. And then the doorbell ringing, the arrival of her 5 o'clock. His truncated cry of shock at horror of being confronted by Kat's naked and blood-spotted body. Instead of the demure schoolteacher he had very specifically requested. And now the sight of me in an even more gory state had him pegging to the evening light before Kat somehow convinced him to stay and take the 5th and final pill. There were definitely screams. Endless screams, and I think they were his. They might just as well have been mine, left to my own devices with half the cutlery drawer scattered across the floor. I remember thinking the sound of an electric carving knife was the most beautiful sound in the world. And as I listened to that little motor valiantly struggle, I thought I might die in exquisite joy. Then the truncated wail of a siren, blue light splashing as the door was hammered down, the sound of a plod retching up his guts, until finally nothing at all, until I woke up surrounded by white. White sheets, white curtains, a white-clad doctor dropping a syringe into a kidney dish. "Ah," he said, "you're awake," tipping his half-moon glasses back a little. "Good, how do you feel?" I thought about this question for a moment. The insane pleasure was gone, but the crashing low from my first come down wasn't there either. I felt empty. "Okay," I said. "No pain?" he asked. "No," I agreed. "Well, that's good," he said in a way that suggested quite the opposite. "Do you mind answering a few questions?" I nodded, happy to help. He picked out a photo of the file he was holding. A grey face stared back at me, limpid eyes, thin lips, flabby cheeks, the head at a strange angle to his neck. "Do you recognise this man?" "Sure," I said. "Cat's 5 o'clock. Not sure I ever got his name." We were rather hoping, but never mind, let's try this one. "Easy," I replied. "The pharmacist." Never sure I got his name. Odd how he had the same glassy look, the same awkward looking position. There was something dark, some stain on the wall he was leaning against, or was it the floor? "Oh well, we'll try other methods of identification. Cat's 6 o'clock, presumably." I shook my head. "I don't think Cat knows him." He clicked his pen in his hand. "A pharmacist, you say? What sort of pharmacist?" I looked at him in sudden suspicion. He didn't much look like a copper, but then again, what would a copper in a white coat look like? Best be cautious. "Look," I said, as agreeably as I could. "What's this all about? Who did you say you were? And why am I in hospital? Where's Cat and why the hell am I tied down?" He clicked his pen a couple more times and took a deep breath. "My name is Dr. Chatham," he said, "and I'm a specialist in neuropharmacology. You were brought to my attention because there's something blocking your pain receptors. We're not sure what, but I've given you an injection that should help clear whatever it is from your system." The 5 o'clock and the pharmacist, I'm afraid to say, both in the morgue, and you were lucky not to have joined them. It was touch and go for a while, which I hope explains adequately why you're in hospital. Cat is manacled to a radiator somewhere downstairs in the hospital pharmacy. No one has managed to get near her enough to give her a sedative. She's already sent 2 porters and 3 policemen into A&E and seems to be eager for more. More policemen and more drugs. She isn't choosy. So anything you can tell us what you took would be most helpful. He held my nonchalant gaze for a while and then sighed and turned to go. Oh, he said, and you're not tied down to the bed. I struggled to raise my head, the picture rearranging itself. I'd been mistaken about the white sheets. There were no sheets. Instead, there was an expanse of bandages covering my entire torso. And as I looked at the odd shapes attached to that torso, at the stumps of their splashes of crimson red slowly soaking through the white cotton, the last of the MDMA derivative must have finally been mopped from my brain. Because at that moment, at that precise moment, a million tiny demons armed with barbed tridents set to work. And the agony, the excruciating, white-hot, unbearable, never-ending agony began. Ah!